Good evening and welcome to the Capitol Report on NTD Television. I'm Steve Lance. Coming up, President Trump saying he would designate Antifa a domestic terror organization, condemning political violence in the wake of the assassination of conservative thought leader Charlie Kirk. And authorities say the man suspected of killing Kirk revealed his plans in a text message. The investigators also saying DNA evidence links back to the suspect.
This is Capitol Report, live from our global headquarters in our nation's capital. Here's Steve Lance.
The White House doubling down on condemning political violence after the fatal shooting of conservative thought leader Charlie Kirk. We go live now to NTD's Mari Otsu, who's at the White House. Good evening, Mari. So in the wake of Charlie Kirk's assassination, there's some that are actually celebrating his death. These are popping up, ranging from all sectors of our society, really. Some of the claims are saying that he was spreading hateful rhetoric, as they put it. The White House, meantime, saying it's these false claims that are fueling political violence, including the assassination itself. So how is the administration planning to address this?
Good evening to you too, Steve. Indeed, and today the White House is condemning all forms of political violence, domestic terrorism, and radicalization after Charlie Kirk's assassination. And just moments ago, President Trump is saying that designating Antifa as a domestic terrorist organization is, quote, 100% something that he would do. Let's take a look.
Antifa is terrible.
Are there other groups that you can think of?
There are other groups, yeah, there are other groups. We have some pretty radical groups, and they got away with murder. You can see they're professional agitators. It looks like he became radicalized over the internet.
And they're all on their phones all the time. Parents have got to monitor that, because this starts when you're young. Yeah, they are being radicalized.
This is coming as Vice President JD Vance today is hosting the Charlie Kirk show from the White House, along with other administration officials honoring Kirk's life and legacy. And while a large part of the show was dedicated to Kirk's life, another significant part of the show was dedicated to focusing on how his assassination, something like that, should never happen again. So the Trump administration is saying that they're going to go after the NGO network that foments, facilitates, and engages in violence, with President Trump announcing that these organizations are already under, quote, major investigation. Take a look.
And when you look at the agitators, the American flag burnings all over the place, they're already under major investigation. We wouldn't celebrate if something happened on their side, and we don't. These are sick people.
And Stephen Miller, the White House Deputy Chief of Staff, condemns what he calls a growing domestic terrorist movement in the U.S. Miller says that people celebrating and cheering Charlie Kirk's assassination is not a fringe phenomenon, but extends to federal workers, bureaucrats, educators, professors, and nurses.
The organized doxing campaigns, the organized riots, the organized street violence, the organized campaigns of dehumanization, vilification, posting people's addresses, combining that with messaging that's designed to trigger and incite violence, and the actual organized cells that carry out and facilitate the violence. It is a vast domestic terror movement.
Vice President Vance characterizes this violence as a collection of forces like a pyramid.
Not every member of that pyramid would commit a murder. In fact, over 99%, I'm sure, would not. But by celebrating that murder, many of these people are creating an environment where things like this are inevitably going to happen. We can thank God that most Democrats don't share these attitudes, and I do.
Vance recounts being harassed at Disneyland while with his wife and kids. He also shares the story of a senior White House staffer who had people in his neighborhood hand out leaflets telling people what he looked like and where he lived, encouraging neighbors to harass him just after Kirk's assassination. The vice president says that while these people don't constitute the majority of Americans, he urges Americans to unite in condemnation of the actions and ideas that killed Charlie Kirk.
There is no unity with someone who lies about what Charlie Kirk said in order to excuse his murder. There is no unity with the people who celebrate Charlie Kirk's assassination. And there is no unity with the people who fund these articles, who pay the salaries of these terrorist sympathizers, who argue that Charlie Kirk, a loving husband and father, deserved a shot to the neck because he spoke words with which they disagree.
Vance and Miller say that they will do their best in the coming months to activate all resources at the Department of Justice, the Department of Homeland Security, and throughout the government to identify and dismantle these terrorist networks. Steve, back to you.
NTD's Mari Otsu live from the White House. Thank you, Mari. President Trump announcing the creation of a task force today to address rampant crime in Memphis, Tennessee. He says it'll be a replica of crime-fighting efforts that we saw right here in Washington, and that it will deploy the full powers of the FBI, ICE, and the National Guard, as well as other agencies.
This team will deploy the full powers of federal law enforcement agencies and enforcement generally to restore public safety and get dangerous career criminals off of our streets. We're going to get them off. In 2024, Memphis had the highest violent crime rate, the highest property crime rate, and the third highest murder rate of any city in the nation.
I've been in office 7 years. I'm tired of crime holding the great city of Memphis back.
Memphis, which sits in the red state led by a Republican governor, had the nation's highest crime rate per 100,000 people last year. It's according to FBI data. President Trump says he'll likely deploy the National Guard to Chicago next, and that St. Louis is also on the list. Meantime, President also announcing a U.S. strike on a second Venezuelan boat, saying it was carrying narcotics headed to the United States. President Trump says the strike killed 3 terrorists, adding that it was to stop violent cartels from transporting drugs that kill Americans. And on China, President Trump says he'll talk to Chinese regime leader Xi Jinping this Friday, in part to finalize the TikTok deal. The administration announcing today it has reached a framework for a deal that could allow TikTok to keep operating in the United States instead of being completely banned. Authorities have new details about the man suspected of assassinating Charlie Kirk last week. Officials say they now have DNA evidence and text messages revealing a potential motive for the killer. NTD's Jack Bradley reports from the Utah County Jail.
Behind me is where Tyler Robinson, the 22-year-old suspect involved in the assassination of Charlie Kirk, is being held without bail at Utah County Jail. Robinson is the sole suspect in the assassination, which happened last Wednesday in front of a crowd of thousands at Utah Valley University. Investigators have now found text messages in which Robinson allegedly wrote that he has the chance to kill Charlie Kirk and that he would.
His family has collectively told investigators that he subscribed to left-wing ideology, and even more so in these last couple of years. And he had a text message exchange, he the suspect, with another individual, in which he claimed that he had an opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk, and he was going to do it because of his hatred for what Charlie stood for.
DNA evidence may link back to Robinson as well, including a screwdriver that was found on the roof where Robinson allegedly shot Kirk from, and a towel wrapped around the firearm that was abandoned in a nearby wooded area.
The DNA hits from the towel that was wrapped around the firearm and the DNA on the screwdriver are positively processed for the suspect in custody. The father informed us, per interview of him, that he looked at the video that we released that evening and the enhanced photos and identified the suspect.
FBI Director Kash Patel also says that his department is investigating a group chat that Robinson was allegedly a part of on the Discord app, with more individuals that are going to be interviewed. Utah Governor Spencer Cox on Sunday saying the suspect is being uncooperative, but that his transgender roommate boyfriend is cooperating with investigators.
He's not cooperating, but all the people around him are cooperating.
Robinson will make his first court appearance on Tuesday. He faces multiple charges, including aggravated murder, felony discharge of a firearm, and obstruction of justice. If convicted on the aggravated murder charge, he could face the death penalty in the state of Utah. Charlie Kirk's funeral and memorial service will take place on Sunday in Arizona in a stadium that can hold up to 60,000 people. President Trump said that he will be attending. Reporting from Spanish Fork, Utah, Jack Bradley, NTD News.
Meanwhile, the assassination of Charlie Kirk is drawing condemnation from both sides of the aisle. Several prominent Democrats are now urging people to turn down the rhetoric. Here's a look.
Political violence is the enemy of democracy, and we have an obligation on all sides to fight it at every turn. We must condemn it whenever it arises. wherever it arises, including this heinous murder of Charlie Kirk.
When I represent a state like Pennsylvania, that keeps you honest, and you always can't forget that a lot of Americans happen to disagree with you. That does not mean that they are fascists. Now look what happened to Charlie Kirk. I mean, you know, the man was shot. Now we have to turn the temperature down.
And not only was Charlie assassinated, but a part of our core American principles were also assassinated. You know, and that is that we litigate with words, not weapons. And whether you agreed or disagreed with Charlie Kirk, you know, what he espoused in his mission was actually to do exactly what I'm encouraging all of us to start doing more of, which is to spend time together and show up at events and don't attack, but listen, learn, educate, and debate.
Vice President JD Vance hosting the Charlie Kirk podcast show today, joined by members of the president's cabinet. He says that political violence is not a both sides problem, shining a light on differing moral beliefs between the right and some on the far left. Vance says that most Democrats are not celebrating the assassination, but something that has gone wrong with those who are.
24% of self-described, quote, very liberals believe it is acceptable to be happy about the death of a political opponent, while only 3% of self-described very conservatives agree. 26% of young liberals believe political violence is sometimes justified, and only 7% of young conservatives say the same. By celebrating that murder, apologizing for it, and emphasizing not Charlie's innocence, but the fact that he said things some didn't like, even to the point of lying about what he actually said, many of these people are creating an environment where things like this are inevitably going to happen. There is no unity with the people who celebrate Charlie Kirk's assassination. And there is no unity with the people who fund these articles, who pay the salaries of these terrorist sympathizers.
Coming up, an emotional Sunday night in Washington, D.C., as hundreds, if not thousands, attending a prayer vigil for Charlie Kirk. Arizona State Senator Jake Hoffman hosted that event. He'll be joining us to reflect on Charlie's legacy. And UCLA placing an employee on leave following social media posts in which he appeared to celebrate the death of Charlie Kirk. We'll be looking into that and more when we return.